Our first video is about how to prepare for the conversation. Felicia, would you explain how a crucial conversation differs from any other type of conversation?
Well, there are three key points that separate a crucial conversation from a regular conversation. First, opinions may vary. What I see as problem gambling, they may see as discretionary spending. Second, stakes are high. You are approaching someone with information that could change your relationship forever. Third, emotions are strong. People hiding a problem spend all of their energy keeping it hidden, and now someone is bringing their secret out in the light. So that can create a lot of tension.
Thank you, Felicia. At some point, a person has seen something or found something that is leading them to believe that a loved one might have a potential problem with gambling. What are some of those things and some of those signs that someone might have a problem with gambling?
Well, the signs when it comes to problem gambling is basically universal. You know, everyone usually looks for preoccupation. A person is always preoccupied. A gambler who has, for instance, made a bet, they're going to always be thinking about what's going on with that bet, what's going on with that team. Are they covering the points? Are they doing that? So preoccupation is a big issue. Another issue, of course, is mood changes. Gamblers, they go through mood changes. You see a person going through mood back and forth. Body language. All of a sudden, they're not acting the way they normally do. Their mannerism changed. The way they speak, the words they use, all of a sudden are changing. Gamblers, they have their own little unique language. There's usually a lot of hints or insinuation towards betting, like I bet this, I do this, or you could say something like, well, I would like to watch this game, but it's just so hard when they're not covering the points. Well, why are you so caught up when they're not covering the points? It's because usually they have something invested in it. You know, so when you want to talk about someone, you got to take those things under consideration. Find out exactly what's going on before you decide to do anything.
Can I ask you, are there any changes in a person's financial habits that might also indicate a problem with gambling?
Oh, most definitely. Like Ms. Felicia was saying about the finances. See, a gambler will sometimes says, well, listen, I don't have a gambling problem. I got a cash flow problem. Okay, but you do see the difference when a person does gambling. Usually they're spending money on certain things. All of a sudden, those issues are not important. Like, let's say for a youth, for instance, a youth that's used to buying clothes and sneakers. All of a sudden, oh, you know what? I'm going to save this money for something else. And you look back, you're like, is that true? Because you know that they like sneakers. But however, they're not spending that anymore on the stuff they like because they're saving it for something else.
Luis, what should someone not do when having a crucial conversation about problem gambling?
You know, there are many pitfalls when it comes to such a conversation. Okay, for one, you don't ever want to be judgmental. Like you said, a gambler will affect 11 to 14 people in their life. Okay, so it does become a very emotional thing. So there's certain things that you want to keep in check. For instance, you don't want to be judgmental. You don't want to yell. You don't want to give ultimatums. Ultimatums can cause certain issues, and you want a conversation where you're coming across as supportive, and you want to create that safe environment for the person to share. So if you're judgmental, you give ultimatums, you yell, you act surprised at something the person said, or your body language just seems threatening. Usually people lean forward when we're having a conversation, and if you get emotionally charged, you tend to lean forward. Well, that's confrontational. So there's certain things that you don't want to do when you want to have a conversation with a gambler about that there's an issue in the house. Because the fact is, they may not know or they may not believe that they have an issue.
And to be clear, what we're talking about is a first conversation where someone starts to think that someone that they care about might have a problem with gambling, right?
Yes. Once you come to the realization that says, you know what, there's something here going on. If you feel it, guess what, more than likely, that's what it is. Okay, intuition is very important. But now that you have that feeling, you have that intuition, now you want to make sure that you're coming across properly. So the best thing to do, one of the first things that you should do to prepare for this conversation, that first conversation, is educate yourself. Educate yourself on the harm that gambling causes. Educate yourself on the signs of problem gambling. And then you got to educate yourself on the treatment that are available. Because you don't ever want to confront someone with an issue without having some sort of solution to the situation. So that's how you prepare yourself.
How would a person that's not familiar with the world of problem gambling educate themselves on treatment options?
I mean, there are many searches on the internet. You know, one of the best resources, to tell you the truth, in the state of New Jersey is the Council of Compulsive Gambling.
Yes, because we'll tell them.
Yeah, you can call 1-800-GAMBLER. And see, our helpline is not just for the gambler searching for treatment. Our helpline is there for also educational purposes, informational purposes. So call 1-800-GAMBLER, and if you have questions, we'll help you along. We might even guide you to the resources or sources where you can get further information.
During the conversation, should you mention things you have noticed changing with your loved one?
Oh, most definitely. You know, if you notice that your loved one is having a change in their appearance, you know, unlike substance abuse, where it's physical, with gambling, although it's called a hidden addiction, there are certain changes. The person is changing in the manner that they dress now. Okay. The person may be having a crisis in their life where they using gambling as a sort of escape. When that happens, there will be a change in, you know, in the way they express themselves, the way they talk, the mannerism and how they walk. Once upon a time, they may be walking, you know, head high, chest out. Now, you know, they're walking sort of slumped over, you know, like they're always in thoughts, like they're always thinking. So there are many ways, and if you see those, when you have the conversation, you should definitely bring that up.
I've heard that when you have a difficult conversation with someone, you should always use I statements. How should you do that when you're having a conversation about problem gambling?
No, most definitely. See, you got to remember, I statement puts an air of support, puts an air of understanding. So it makes it safe when you hear the person saying, you know, making I statements, where now I am not pushing it on you. I'm not saying that you're the problem. You know, I'm not saying, you see, the reason why we're here is because of how you're acting. So I statements do sort of say, these things from my perspective, this is what I see, this is my opinion. So therefore, it's safe for the person to say something back, instead of just be back like, you know, they're being blamed for something. Yes. So you don't want to set no guilt.
So an I statement might be like, the way I see it, things have changed in your life. Or maybe from my perspective, you're doing things a lot differently and you're hiding things from.
Right, you might not necessarily say the way I see it. You might say, well, you know, I've noticed some changes. I have seen some things, you know, instead of, you know, those type of words where, you know, it's sort of you being, oh, you've been observing me? No, I just been noticing things. You know, in our everyday interaction, I just notice things. So yeah, so those I statements do help.
Speaking of hearing someone, do you have any tips on how to listen during this important conversation?
Active listening is, you know, is what you should do the most. Now, how does the person know that you're active listening? Of course, if the person is talking, you want to make sure that you're forming some sort of eye contact. And, you know, you want to nod. It's like affirming, okay, I understand, I'm hearing you. And as you're saying that, you're also acknowledging, because it shows like you're showing empathy. Make sure that you don't have, like facial expression is very important. So if you come across, try to keep your face relaxed. Try to keep yourself relaxed. So therefore, you know, a face of like, you know, there's some people when you have a conversation with them, they can't wait to say the next thing that's in your mind. So it acts like you're not listening, because you're just ready to say the next thing that's in your mind. When you're relaxed and you're acting, you know, you're facing neutral, and you're just relaxing yourself, and it looks like you're listening, and that you're taking in, you're understanding what the person is saying. And you also want to rephrase. You know, it's always good to paraphrase and reflect back. So if the gambler is telling you something, you can easily say, okay, so what I hear you saying is this, this, and this. Sometimes paraphrase back. You don't have to verbatim say the conversation back, but just say a few words of what the person told you. This way the person understands that they heard you, and that they perfectly understand what you said.
What should a person be prepared to have happen during a crucial conversation like this?
Well, listen, this is emotional. There's a lot of things may happen through the conversation because of the emotion involved. But regardless of what you do, you got to remember, you want to start that conversation, and you want to make sure with the intent to plant a seed. You're not going into that first initial conversation to change the world. Okay, they're not going to change the behavior right then and there. You want to plant a seed for what's to come later on. So you want to make sure that you're in a comfortable spot, that the person is not doing, is not actively doing something. And if you're able to, make sure you're both sitting down. Okay. When people are standing up having a conversation, it can very easily, because of the body language, a lot of people, like I do, I use my hands a lot to talk. Some people tend to do that, they'll shuffle their feet. So when you want to have the conversation, you want to be calm, you want to be in a safe environment, and it's good if you sit down, if both parties are sitting down.
Felicia and Luis, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you both and the Council for being a great partner with the New Jersey Lottery. Viewers, thank you for joining us. Next week, we'll talk about how to prepare when you're in a relationship and you are concerned that your partner may have a problem with gambling.